This video introduces Helios interfaces as a concept. Here we are with the profile we created in the last video, which was Hello Helios. And in that video, I explained how Helios connects one thing to another thing. So when one thing changes, another thing gets updated. The class of thing that we used last time was visuals or on-screen controls. There are other class of thing in Helios that can be connected, and the big one is interfaces. Now, interfaces are really anything that you can have in your profile that is not primarily on the screen. So it's not like something that draws on the screen. Usually some interfaces actually produce some visual effects, but what they are not is they're not part of like a panel. They're not like a button on the screen that you click on at runtime. Actually, our example profile from last time includes some interfaces. We just didn't use them. So let's look at that now. I'm going to use the Profile Explorer, which is one of the two tabs up here. This one shows what's on all screens, and then the Profile Explorer is just a tree listing of everything that's in your profile. My profile has 4 monitors. Those are visuals. They're the representations of my screens, that what's going to get drawn. It has a keyboard interface and it has a profile interface. So we look at the keyboard interface. So what this is this is a device that when it's present in the, or in this case an interface, that is when it is present in your profile, can be used to send key commands. So in the outputs panel, it doesn't seem to show anything. In the inputs panel, it has an action called send keys, and it documents here how to use it. So when we trigger this action in Helios terminology, it will send some keystrokes, type something into the currently active application in Windows. So you can use that, for example, if you're playing with a game that doesn't have a Helios interface and you just want to make a UI for it anyway, you can just use the key bindings and just send Control-Alt-A or whatever when you click on a thing in the Helios profile. And then press and release key are just specifically if you want to just hold it down, the key, and then release it later. You can do it as 2 separate keys, or you can just send keys and it'll just press each one and let go. It doesn't have any outputs because this interface doesn't provide for you to type anything into the keyboard. It's just the interface has an input, meaning you can send something to the interface, and what the interface will do is simulate keystrokes in Windows. The other interface that's there is the profile interface itself, and that's just sort of like a service interface that you can use. It has outputs, so it tells you when the profile was started, when the profile was reset, and when the profile was stopped. Basically, when somebody presses these buttons in the control center. It also has inputs, which is you can cause it to stop the profile, which is pretty weird because after that it won't respond anymore because you've stopped the profile. You can cause it to pop up the control center, and you can use it to hide the control center. And you can, if that's allowed, you used to be able to use to launch an application with it, but actually that's a separate interface now for security reasons. So this doesn't do anything. It just says, it's just here for people will find this message. Okay, so how an interface is different? Well, you can't take them, they're not in the toolbox, and you can't stick them on the screen. They just appear basically over here in the Profile Explorer and in the interface status view, which shows you whether all your interfaces are configured correctly. In this case, everything's fine. So let's do something with an interface. It's not that different, really. We had this button. Let's get another button. I'm going to take a white button. Maybe a mistake, because I don't know if you're going to be able to see it. I'll take a gray button. And what we're going to do is when we push that, we're going to sorry, that when it's pushed, sorry, I have to be in the output side because I'm going to react to its pushed event. So when it is pushed, then I'm going to use the profile interface to hide control center. Okay, so this isn't any different from what we did when we hooked up the button to the display. So in that sense, interfaces and visuals or on-screen controls are exactly the same. Internally in the code, of course, they're completely different, but they behave in the UI pretty much the same way. You just can't, you can't drag them onto the screen. There's no icon for them. Also, when you add one, it will keep you from adding more copies of things that are not allowed. Like right now, we already have a profile and a keyboard, and those you're only allowed to have one of, so they don't even appear in the list now. So that's another thing that's different. Like I can make 2 buttons, but I can't make 2 profile interfaces because that doesn't make sense. All right, so we added our new button. I'm going to save, run the profile. Again, remember this is from hello Helios, and the other one is boop, auto hide the control center, and then we can just get it back from Alt Tab. All right, so that's what an interface is. Now, what interfaces? What are some examples of what we would make? Deliver as an interface. Well, there's the ones that are built in here, and there's some new ones obviously coming up at different times. There's this old interface that nobody knows if it still works, but there was these boards that Gadrock had access to that to wire actual physical aircraft gauges and stuff, like from cockpit, like from scrap, I guess, or from surplus into him. And then this was the interface to talk to that. Still there, probably works. Control router is an advanced interface that has its own wiki page and stuff, and probably mostly exists because I wanted it, and it allows you to use like one input device to control many things on the screen. And these are different kinds of airplanes in DCS that we have direct support for. Falcon BMS. Process control, again, is a separate interface. If you want Helios to be able to start and stop processes, you have to add this to your profile and opt in, because we don't want just people willy-nilly starting other people's processes. And then, viewports configuration, so patching DCS and doing monitor sets for DCS. So it's pretty DCS centric and BMS. Other interfaces will dynamically show up here if you plug them in. Like if I plug in, a DirectX joystick, then it would show up here as a thing that I can connect to. That's about that. Okay, so that's what an interface is. I guess for the developers, interfaces, just like controls or visuals, can be delivered as plugins. So you're gonna have you could have a plugin DLL that provides a number of new tools in the toolbox, provides a number of new templates for them, or provides even total new interfaces that can be added to people's profiles.